This is the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast. In this episode, we talk about the housing problem in Cleveland Heights, Ohio. We dive into what led to this problem and what steps we can take to solve it. Our goal is to make this an inclusive conversation that benefits everyone living and investing in Cleveland Heights. Mike Reilly and Mike Ferrante discuss the top 10 things that the new mayor and some of the new council members should do as an action plan to turn around the Cleveland Heights housing situation. Stay tuned.
Hi, everybody. Mike Reilly again. Our part two. Since Mike Ferrante and I have some time over July 4th, we thought we'd get a couple of podcasts done. We just did our July heat check, and I'm going to talk a little bit about, this is more geared towards people that live in Cleveland Heights, and for those investors who may be looking to invest in my hometown of Cleveland Heights. So these are top 10 things that the new mayor and some of the new council people should be, I would suggest they do as an action plan to turn around the housing in Cleveland Heights. Are you ready for this ride, Mike?
I am ready.
Okay.
Strapped in and ready.
Strapped in and ready. Okay. Now, and I'm going to send this out to some of my friends on council and other people. But I just attended a meeting, which was actually very well attended at the Forest Hill Church. It was sponsored by a nonprofit group called Future Heights. And we met, they probably set up a dozen circles of people, about 8 chairs total. And everybody was supposed to talk about what they would do about the housing problem in Cleveland Heights. Now, for those who don't live in Cleveland Heights, we have a vacant housing problem. The city says there's at least 350 vacant houses in Cleveland Heights, which in a seller's market is unforgivable. It's like having a number one draft pick in the NBA or the NFL, the number one draft pick, and then blowing it by picking somebody who's incompetent. This is a seller's market. The more of these vacant houses can get to the market, obviously, the less vacant homes they're going to be. So the seminar was called Housing, Housing, Housing. I could shorten it by simply channeling my inner James Carville, who was the campaign manager for Bill Clinton, and simply say, it's the housing stupid, which is a play on, it's the economy stupid. So to put this in perspective, Lakewood, which is the west side version of Cleveland Heights, probably has vacant homes under 50. Same size. Cleveland Heights, I think, is like 40,000 in terms of population, 45,000. It's a big inner ring suburb. The same with Lakewood. We've got 350, and trust me, folks, there's more than 350. I know that for a fact. It's probably closer to like 700. Lakewood has 50. So why is Cleveland Heights fumbling the ball on housing? Everybody knows it's a problem. The new mayor ran and he says, I'm going to address housing. Everybody talks about housing. So my first rule, my number one that we're going to do is we're not going to talk. Nobody is allowed to talk about how they care about Cleveland Heights and housing, how they care about the housing problem. You are not allowed to say that anymore, because you know what that is? That's called thoughts and prayers on housing. You say, I care about Cleveland Heights, you put that on the flyer, you should be immediately eliminated from holding office or running for anything. I have seen this for at least a dozen years. People talking about how they love and care about Cleveland Heights and we really need to address the housing. That's just all talk. It goes nowhere. So thoughts on number one, Mike?
Well, I think the thoughts and prayers comment sums it up. I mean, that's lip service.
Yeah.
We need a plan. Yeah, we need a plan.
Money talks, right? Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, council people out there, We got ARPA funds. ARPA funds is part of Joe Biden's, rescue plan, where communities were given millions of dollars to allocate to help fix up their city. Do you think anything has gone to address, any dollars have gone to address the housing? I don't think so. Okay, so I haven't heard of anything. I haven't heard any sort of initiatives. All I've heard of is, which leads me to number 2, no more studies. No more studies. You are not allowed to spend any money on studies or surveys or asking the constituents what their problem is. In fact, no more meetings like the one I attended last week. In fact, I told the group that. No more meetings. That was the first thing out of my mouth. Why are we meeting? I'm at another meeting. I was at a meeting 10 years ago on housing. I'm back. It's like Groundhog Day, right? You wake up and there's another meeting. You wake up, there's another survey. You are not, you know what? If you want to spend money on a survey, everybody reach into their wallets and throw some money in it. You pay for that survey. Don't use ARPA money for this survey, because you know what the survey is? It's another stalling tactic. It's more thoughts and prayers. We don't need a survey. Anybody who lives across the street from a vacant house that's been sitting there for 5 years knows we have a problem. Thoughts and prayers, Mike, on number 2?
Well, that it does amaze me that when you know what the problem is and you still want to talk about it. I think you're right. A stalling tactic is the right way to put it.
Okay, number 3, no more racial justice. I think I'm getting people's attention here, Mike, right?
Yeah,
No
I'm
more
wondering where you're
racial-
going with this one.
Okay, watch how I spin this from straw to gold. No more racial justice. I live in a diverse community, Cleveland Heights. Orthodox Jews, gay, lesbian, LGBT, whatever, black, white. It's a very ethnic stew here in Cleveland Heights. All right. But is the biggest area in Cleveland Heights that has the most vacant houses. The Noble Road area, the area that adjoins East Cleveland, right, Mike?
For sure, yeah.
Okay, that has the most vacant houses. What do you think the highest percentage of Black occupancy in Cleveland Heights? Noble Road. Noble Road. You know what? I don't want a study on racial justice looking for somebody who maybe said the wrong thing or some incident for woke. Racial justice should be giving our constituents, making their mortgage payments, taking care of their houses, meticulously cutting the grass, planting flowers, and they're surrounded by vacant houses. They're not only surrounded by vacant houses, but drum roll number 4, which is connect the dots, vacant houses, gunshots, and crime. The more vacant houses you have, the more pressure there is to rent to the wrong kind of people, which leads to more transient type people coming into these areas, and you have a rise in petty crime. Maybe you'll have a drive-by. Suddenly, which then guess what? Accelerates more transients, it accelerates more vacant houses, because suddenly people move, they can't sell their house for what they owe, so they just walk away. And bingo, you have more vacant houses. So racial justice, number 3. Number 4 is vacant properties equal more crime. Your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, and you mentioned the word rental in that paragraph there. I wonder if we're going to talk about that, but I can tell you that when we talk about these neighborhoods, we know the neighborhoods from dealing with clients that people are trying to get out of. And, certainly north of Monticello is on that list.
Yeah. And everybody just kind of dances around it.
That's
So
right.
if we're going to talk about racial justice, come on, people, it's more thoughts and prayers. Really, it's right in front of you. Take care of our constituents in these neighborhoods that are verging on becoming the next ghetto. Okay, that's what it is. You need more police presence. You need, I think we're at number 5. We need a separate city hall that is tasked to deal with vacant housing. We don't need the housing department dealing with vacant houses. They are overwhelmed. I'll throw a shout out to, and a lot of love to Alan Butler, who runs the housing department in Cleveland Heights. These guys are overwhelmed. Okay, and guess what? They ain't getting any ARPA money. Okay, they're subcontracting point of sale violations. They're not getting any. You think they're hiring more people in the housing department with that ARPA money? No. We're spending money on surveys and meetings, but we sure ain't staffing this place up. So let's put together, and I hate to say this, but we need almost like a Delta force, a SEAL Team 6. We need a small group where all they do is focus their energies on these vacant homes. Your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned the housing department. They are one of the most understaffed departments in the area. You know, it's amazing how many homes they're responsible for and how few people they do that with. But, you know, and when you say SEAL Team 6, it's got to be someone who's armed with authority. That's the thing. If you just put together another think tank, another committee, nothing's going to happen. They have to actually have the authority to do something.
Right. Which leads me to my next. I think we're at what, number 6, Mike?
Number 6, drum roll,
We're
please.
Number 6. I don't want anybody who has a master's. If you have a master's in urban planning or this or government or blah, 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 you can't work on this problem. Okay? Because it's like, you'll just Rube Goldberg it up. All right? You'll just make this so complicated. We need somebody, whoever is in this SEAL Team 6, and we got to come up with a name for this, Mike, for our elite housing commandos. They need to have experience in the real estate business, right?
I agree.
It's almost like when FDR came in as president, who did he put in charge of Wall Street on the newly created Securities and Exchange Commission? He put in charge Joseph P. Kennedy, who made millions on Wall Street. And why did he do that? Because he knew that Joe Kennedy knew how the game was played.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, that's what happened. What you need, now I'm not saying you're going to get some, Donald Trump Jr. real estate con man, running our SEAL Team 6, but you need realtors who know how the game's played, how LLCs come in, they buy these properties, they get a hard money loan, they start the work, and then they disappear. Okay, and a lot of times they live around the corner. They're trying to play amateur mogul, real estate mogul person, but they don't know up from down. So we need that team with real estate, with collections experience, going to court, nuisance abatement. You need a very unique mix of people there to be part of our SEAL Team 6. Your thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, it's kind of like the A team. You got your demo expert, your tactician, your pilot. Yeah, I agree, Mike. It should be a mixture of people with different areas of expertise.
It's almost like Mission Impossible. All right, number 7. I don't want to hear about all these out-of-state LLCs, these out-of-state investors as being the big bad wolf in all this. All right. You want to know where the problem is? It's not out of state. Everybody look in the mirror. There's the problem. who cares if it's an LLC out of state if you have a tough regulatory arm in the city? Okay, and now hear me out on this one. You've got LLCs who come in because Cleveland Heights and its regulation is non-existent, and all of a sudden you flip it around. So we've got a SEAL Team 6, we've got a city hall connected to other organizations in the city, the courts, the police, whatever. You can start levying fines on these people. I mean, this whole organization, you don't need to draw on ARPA funds. These new staffing can pay for itself. I mean, if I had an LLC that wanted to buy a vacant house and fix it up, and they were going to pay, $50,000, they had a hard money loan for $50,000, I would simply tell them, take out a bond, okay, a performance bond, and you've got to get the outside finished in 3 months. If you don't, we're fining your ass. Your thoughts, Mike?
I agree. It's all about accountability. Right now there's really no accountability in place, but I'm with you on not just taking the easy scapegoat too. I mean, that's what we've heard that for years. Oh, the problem is all these out-of-town investors. Well, that's not the problem. That's a symptom of the problem.
Right. Now we supposedly know that there's 350 houses, right, out there. Okay, let's break it all down. You start combing through the LLCs. You know who is the head of the LLCs? People that probably live in South Euclid, people who live in Cleveland Heights. They live in the area. They're not out of state. They're not some corporate entity. Yeah, I'm sure there is. But at the end of the day, these people, the irony of a lot of these out-of-staters, and you deal with them, and so do I, is they want to make money. They're here to make money. They're not here to pretend they're making money. And the irony of the local LLCs, these guys don't know what they're doing. They end up going bankrupt. The out-of-state LLCs, their job is to get a return on investment. You want to elaborate, Mike?
Well, we see it all the time. The companies, especially the bigger companies, we have one client that owns hundreds of houses in the area. And if you think they're letting dollars slip through their fingers, no, it's not. It's the amateur investor who's really the bigger problem. I mean, we've seen that time and time again. Now, certainly to every rule, there's an exception. And I do know some out-of-towners that are bad owners, but I think you're right in general.
Yeah, and if they're gonna, okay, listen, everybody, let's say you've got an LLC buys a property. What's the best way? First of all, performance bond is number one. They got to clean up the outside. They want to take their time on the inside. That's fine. Let them keep losing money. But at the bottom line, it can't be a drivable eyesore where you drive by and the lawn's not cut, and the dumpster's still in the driveway, and the house is half painted. Okay.
Yeah, that's the low-hanging fruit.
That's and you know what? There's a lot of low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And then guess what you do? You also will put out signs if these people are in trouble. And you say, this property is being monitored by the city of Cleveland Heights.
Hey, let's stop here. We got to pay some bills. 30 seconds, and we'll be back. If you've been listening to this podcast, then you understand or should understand the pitfalls of investing in Cleveland real estate. Say you're looking for an investment property to rent, and these are the things that could happen and often do. You overpay for a house, and it's in the ghetto. Then you find that it's a money pit with endless surprise repairs. Your hapless property manager, who may be the brother-in-law of the realtor, gets a tenant who after 3 months stops paying the rent. Then the toilet explodes, and you have nobody to repair it because, guess what? The property manager is not answering the phone. Yep, that's the ugly side. of the Cleveland real estate market. But we have a solution. Buy one of our properties. It's been inspected. It's been vetted. It's in a rock-solid part of town. It comes with a Gold Star tenant paying top dollar rent, and we manage it. Call us at 216-371-8160 if you're interested.
But let's go back to the beginning, the front end of this process. They have to take out a performance bond and they have to be registered with the city. Now, what the city should do, everybody perk up their ears on this one, what the city should do is check their background. It's easy to do. How many other shit boxes do they own? What's their track record? What's their triple B rating? Before you let them register, they have to be checked out. Like a gun. Supposedly, you don't let a guy buy a gun who's just getting out of prison, right?
Yeah, and Mike, it's possible because I know from being at the county sheriff's sales, they do the same thing. If they have people who are irresponsible and don't follow the rules of the auction, you'd end up on a list and you were not allowed to buy properties anymore from the sheriff's sales.
So anyways, let's not blame the out-of-state LLCs. Let's look in the mirror and say, how are we going to control it? How are we going to make lemonade out of these lemons? Through fines and registration fees if they want to come in and develop performance bonds. Okay, so where are we at? Number 8?
I lost track. I think we're at number 8. Yeah.
Number 8. I think we're at number 8. Okay. Number 8, our housing court, ACA revolving door. I just read, if anybody was following San Francisco, they booted out the district attorney. They recalled him. By, I think, 70% of people in San Francisco recalled this guy who was, I guess, the son. His parents were ex-weathermen from the 60s and 70s. So this guy, and hey, I'm an Obama Democrat. Okay, you know me, Mike. I'm an Obama Democrat. I hate Trump. I got my Trump dartboard up there. But this guy was talk about right-wing QAnon wackos. This guy was a left-wing nut job. And police would arrest these people in the park, exposing themselves, selling drugs. And within 2 weeks, they were back on the streets. Or maybe 1 week. In fact, it got so bad that the police and neighborhood associations would film these one guy over and over again, revolving door. That's what we have with the housing court. We have people that go in, that are brought in by the housing department, or neighbors complain, they go in and they get some warning, they get this, they get this. There's absolutely no fines. It's terrible. And I don't know what it is. What's your thoughts, Mike? I know you want to do business in Cleveland Heights. You don't want to show up in front of housing court, but
no, but it is true. There's got to be consequences. It's accountability and consequences. And say what you will about Judge Pianco, who we've talked about before. Rest his soul.
Patron saint.
Right. Right. Talk about a guy who had a handle on accountability and consequences. There was a house that I ended up buying at one point. It was like an apartment house over in Ohio City. And for those of you guys who've seen the movie The Super with Joe Pesci, where he's a slumlord and just, totally disregarding everything that he was being asked to do. Well, there's this little lady that used to own that property. And guess what he did? He put a bracelet, an ankle bracelet on her, and her sentence was house arrest, living in her property. Very unorthodox, unconventional, but finally some consequences. And do you think people heard about that? And when people talk about Judge Pianco, do they know who he was? Yes. And you knew you didn't mess with them.
Right. Yeah, I had an incident about 5 years ago going to housing court when a neighbor and we got sick of looking at this vacant house that had been vacant for 10 years. 10 years it was an eyesore. 1315 Hereford, Cleveland Heights. If you can go back and access old Google pictures, or when we start getting our YouTube channel, I'll show everybody this picture of this house. This house was one of the worst houses I've ever seen from the road. And I went in, the guy, in fact, folks, the owner, everybody thought the owner was in Egypt, another one of these out of the country, no, he lived in Shaker. We tracked him down. You know why we tracked him down? Because we put a nuisance abatement and we took him to court. We had to find out where he lived. We found out this guy, property taxes he was current with them. But again, you know, he bought it 10 years ago. He and his brother started working on it. Then they got tired. And, you know, how many, you know, hey, for you wives out there married to the guy who takes years to, you know, finish painting the house? I mean,
right.
You've heard that. Oh, yeah. No, God forbid you should hire somebody to do it. I'll get around to it. And you know what, Mike? 25% of vacant houses is this. They've got owners who bought the house as an investment and they don't want to admit they screwed up, or they don't want to admit, God forbid, they don't know what they're doing. So the neighborhood has to suffer looking at this house. I mean, this house was terrible. So I go into court with my neighbor who's a lawyer. I could not believe the cross-examine I was getting from the magistrate in the housing court. Well, how much was this? How do you justify this? The guy didn't show up. Showed him pictures. Unfortunately, I let my lawyer talk, which was a big mistake. I should have talked, and I should have given this lady a hard time, which has led me to number 8A was housing court revolving door. 8B is we need to have a mothers against drunk driving task force to go into housing court. Neighbors against bad houses, or some kind of acronym or some sort of phrase, right? And go in, and when they start going off the road, trying to be overbalanced like Merrick Garland's doing with the January 6th thing, they try to get, you know, too balanced here, try to be fair, instead of whacking this owner. These people will be there, and it's almost like, hey, bring your pitchfork, bring your torches, okay? Be outside and demand justice for the neighborhood. Look, at my point is you've got to have people who are going to represent the neighborhood show up in housing court when you do nuisance abatement or when you get a complaint. They got to go in there. We have a council person, a lady, I forget her name. She was appointed. She beat me out because I throw my hat in the ring to fill a vacant seat. But I understand she's been doing a vigil at housing court. She literally goes to all the housing court sessions, sits in. I think Tony Kuda, who was a guest on our podcast, does the same thing. They go in there and they come back and they say it's a revolving door, or nothing's getting done. But again, thoughts and prayers, people, nobody's doing anything about this. All right, we've got a problem with the housing court. Okay, they've got to take some Judge Plinka vitamins or something to put some iron in their blood, right, Mike?
Yeah, Judge Bianca.
Bianca, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I've got his
I agree
picture
100%.
on my wall. Judge
Do you
Bianca.
really?
I do. No, I'm just kidding. I should get a picture on the wall in our building. You know, tough judge. But okay, yeah. So we're going off the rails here on number 8. Now we're getting down to number 9. Number 9 is hire VAs, virtual assistants, like we have. You know, we have our 3 Filipino ladies. One literally covers the phone. They live in the Philippines. The other 2 are doing back end office work, balancing, paying the invoices, the whole 9 there. You knew that, right, Mike?
Oh yeah, we've talked about that. We've got our gal from India who's been on our team for over 3 years now. She's like part
Okay.
of our family.
All right. So here's what we do, folks. When people call and they complain about a bad house, I'm sick of looking at it. What do I do? Currently, nothing gets done except more thoughts and prayers. Okay? Nothing gets done. In my action plan, number 9 is we get a call center set up where we hire a couple of VAs. So when you call about a house, it's assigned a case study. And then that person, our VA from the Philippines, they represent the constituent. They give the constituent an update on what is going on with this eyesore problem house, or this bad landlord, or these tenants that just trash the place, garbage everywhere, nobody's cleaning up. There's a case study, and our VAs are empowered to act as ombudsman for the constituents. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about having a plan and empowering people. They have to have authority. That's the biggest thing is, you put committees together and you talk about stuff, but there's never any action. Got to have action and authority to actually do something.
Right. And then what they do is they publish a monthly report on the website. So you not only, this goes to number 10, the Cleveland Heights website. If housing is the central problem in Cleveland Heights, it's the one that everybody talks about when they're running for election, right? Housing, I care about Cleveland Heights. Let's wrap this up in a nice bow, Mike. They care about Cleveland Heights. We need to do something about housing. Okay, well, you know what the VAs do on the website? They have a place where they target these vacant houses. And there's actually, you can go to the website and you can see what's going on with this house. Oh, it went to housing court and they let them off. Or nobody's going around to send something to the landlord. Okay. There's some accountability, right? And so the constituents would actually realize that something's actually getting done, talking about it, besides holding a survey. That's number 10, improve the website. So you go to the website, you have a tab called constituent inquiries, and there's a FAQ. What do I do about a bad tenant/landlord? You do this. What do I do about a vacant house? You do that. What do I do about a storefront that is filled with winos and garbage and stuff like that in my neighborhood? What do you do? Who do I call? Okay. I voted for the mayoral change. You're aware of that. We had an amendment 2 years ago where we created, for the first time in Cleveland Heights, a mayor, right?
Yeah.
You remember that? And people would say to me, well, why are you doing this, Mike? What's this about? Why do we need a mayor? You know what? We need a mayor for one simple reason. You want to know who to hang. Mr. Mayor, you're in charge of housing. Housing is and I'll wrap this up, Mike, and I'll give you the last word. But my final thoughts is this. It's housing, stupid. Housing impacts the retail. It impacts racial justice, right? We take care of all our neighborhoods, just the upper income neighborhoods. It impacts retail, crime, everything. Housing is the foundation of a city. And if you're dropping the ball on housing, you're dropping the ball on everything. Your final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in real estate for a reason. And one of the things I've noticed is that real estate drives economies. When you want to start looking at a healthy economy, whether it's on a city, state, or even national level, everybody wants to know what's happening with real estate. So it's right that it should be such a primary focus. But yeah, Cleveland Heights has been spinning their wheels for a long time.
Okay, we'll end on that holiday note. Mike, thanks for your time. We're going to call it a day, folks. Everybody get out, have a safe holiday. Don't set your house on fire with fireworks, speaking of housing. So I'm going to be cooking my world famous turkey burgers. on the little green egg today, Mike? What are you having?
We're having Beyond Bratwursts. That's the meatless bratwursts.
Okay. Besides being our caffeinated co-host, you're also our resident vegan, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Okay,
Have
guys.
a great holiday.
Mike, thanks for your time. Okay.
Yep.
We'll
Sounds
talk
good.
later.
Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Cleveland Real Estate Investor Podcast with Mike Reilly. Please add our show or follow us on Spotify, Overcast, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. Leave a like or comment on the video. All engagement is appreciated. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well for video content coming soon. For any Cleveland listeners or Cleveland Browns fans, you can check out our other podcast, Cleveland Browns Anonymous, for our weekly group therapy session. This is also on all the same platforms as the Cleveland Real Estate Investor.